Hello everyone, today we're going to be coding a balloon popping game using Scratch. So let's go ahead and see what this will look like. So balloons appear on the screen and we have a score and a timer, and we need to click the balloons for them to pop. So let's begin by logging into Scratch. So that's your frog login without the 0.307 and the password is computing. Then go ahead and click create. You then need to give it a name, so call it balloon popping game, and we're going to do file and save now. So to begin, we're going to delete the cat sprite. So the first thing we need to do is add a balloon sprite, and we need to choose a background. So I'm going to go to the choose sprite button and choose a sprite. I can search and then search balloon. Now if you wanted to, you can use your own sprite. So if you wanted to make a game with a theme, so for example Among Us popping game, then you can definitely upload your own sprites. So I'm going to click that. I then want to choose a background, so go to the backdrop button and search. They use the wall, but you can use whatever you like. So maybe I will use Space City because that looks quite nice. There we go. It then says that we need to add this code to the balloon so it bounces around the screen. So when flag clicked, we want it to go to the middle and then point 45 degrees, and then forever we want it to move one step, and then if it's on the edge, we want it to bounce. So we're going to go to events, when flag clicked, then going to drag go to X and Y, and we want it to go to 0 and 0. We then need it to point in direction, so we want it to point 45 degrees. Then we need to go to control, and forever we want it to move one step, and then if it's on the edge we want it to bounce. So just scroll down, if on edge, bounce. So drag that underneath and let's press play. So it's now at 45 degrees, and if it reaches the edge it should bounce back. Now it says here, does the balloon move too slowly? So if you wanted to, you can speed it up a bit, so I could do 3. And if I press play, it moves a little bit faster, so you can do that as well. It then says that the balloon flips as it moves around the screen. So to address that, we need to change the rotation style. So we're going to click the balloon and we're going to change it to no rotating. So click the balloon, and then on the direction, we're going to change it to do not rotate. So if we start the game again, the balloon now bounces around and it doesn't rotate. For the next part, we need to create random balloons, and we don't want them to be in the same position each time. So we're going to let Scratch pick a different number. So instead of using 0 and 0, we're going to change it to minus 150 and 150 for X, and the same for Y. So going to go to operators and pick a random number. So between minus 150 and 150. And then the same for the Y axis, so minus 150 and 150, and then we press green. Each time it will start in a different position in our game. It says that we can even use a random number to choose a random balloon colour each time. So if we look here, we have the change colour block, so we can pick a random colour from 0 to 200. So go to looks, and we have that underneath the pointing direction. So we can do change color effect. So drag that under pointing direction, change color effect by, and go to operators, pick random, and change the 1 to 0, and change the 10 to 200. And we press play. We then have a different color each time. So there's a challenge here that says, can you make your balloon start by pointing in a random direction between minus 90 and 180. So we've done lots of random numbers so far. So instead of 45, we can pick the random number. So minus 90, 180. So when we press play, we then have it pointing in random directions and going around the screen. We then need to add an effect that shows that the balloon has been popped. So we need to go to costumes. So when you click on your sprite, click costumes at the top, and we have the blue balloon here, we can delete the rest, we don't need them. But to create a new costume, go to the bottom and we're going to paint a new costume. So again, go to the bottom and click the paint brush symbol, and we're going to paint a pop effect. So you can use the pen tool, and let's just make this black. So just drag the pointer all the way to make black. And then we can change the pen size and we can make the pop effect. So just some lines to make it look like the balloon has been popped. And this doesn't have to be perfect, so just where the balloon would go. And then we have costume for balloon 1 and then the costume 1. We can change the name, so let's call this popped. And go back to our code. Now when the game begins, we need to tell it which costume to use. So we're going to go to looks and we're going to switch costume. So this is at the very beginning and we need to make sure that it always starts as a balloon. When we press play, it will always start as a balloon until we change it to the popped costume. So when the sprite is clicked, we want the balloon to burst, so we'll switch the costume and we want it to make a pop sound. So we're going to go to events, and when this sprite is clicked, we're going to change the costume, so switch costume to popped, and we're going to play a sound. So go to sound and play sound pop until done. If the pop sound doesn't come up for you, you can go to sounds at the top and then search, and then you can click on the sound that you want and it will add it to your sound library. So when we press play and I click on it, it pops. Now the problem is when it bursts, the burst effect moves around the screen, so it just shows the lines moving around and we don't want that. So the code, we need to just show it for a few seconds and then hide it. So we're going to go to control and then wait, and only 0.3 seconds, so just use a full stop, and then go to looks and we're going to change it to hide. When we press play and we pop it, it will then disappear after 0.3 seconds. But what happens is when we press play again, the balloon is still hidden. So at the top we need to make sure that we show the balloon, and when we press play it will show at the beginning. When we pop it, it disappears, and if you press green again, the balloon appears again. We now need to create a score for bursting the balloons. So we can create a score variable and we can set that at the beginning. So we need to go to the orange variables button and then make a variable. We're going to call this score and press OK. We are then going to drag the set my variable to 0 and we're going to set that to score, and it will appear on the top. Then when the player successfully pops a balloon, we're going to change the score by 1. So going to drag the change score block and change score by 1. So when we press the green flag and I pop it, it should give me 1 point. I want that to come up quicker than that, so I'm going to drag it above the wait 3 seconds block. So when I press play, as soon as I press it, they get 1 point. Now we need to create clones so that many balloons appear all over the screen. So it says that we need to create a clone. So drag your balloon when flag clicked code to a new when I start as a clone control block. So I'm going to click on control and scroll down. So when I start as a clone, and we had this last lesson, and we're going to drag all of the code starting from switch costume to that underneath there. So we have when flag clicked set score, when the sprite is clicked, and when I start as a clone. So at the moment it's not being called, so let's continue coding. So it says here that repeat 20 times create a clone of myself. So this is going to create 20 clones. So we're going to still stay on control and drag create clone of myself. But first we need to make sure that we repeat this. So repeat and change this to 20, and then create clone of myself. So when we press green, we have all these balloons appearing on the screen. and then we can pop them. If you wanted to, you can actually change the number. So if I did 50, lots of balloons are coming up, but careful, it might really slow down your computer, so don't do it too high. I think 20 is enough. Then it says here, instead of hiding it, because we don't want all those clones taking up space in our game, we're going to delete it instead. So where it says hide, we're going to go to control, and it says delete this cone, so I can remove this and change it to delete this cone. So hopefully by popping the balloon it should run a little bit better. It then says we need to create a timer so that when it runs out we can stop the game. So remember, you can just move the screen to the side, and then I can move the screen to the other side so that I can create my timer. I'm just going to create it on the side here. So we need to go to events when flag clicked. We need to create a new variable called time. So go to the variables section and make a variable called time and press OK. We are then going to set the variable to 10, so we're only giving them 10 seconds, so set time to 10. We want this to repeat throughout the game, so go to control, and we need a repeat until block. So we want the timer to keep going down by 1 until the game stops, or until the timer is 0. So we need an operator that's going to check what the timer is equal to, so equals into the space there, and we need to go back to variables. So when time equals 0, or repeat until time equals 0, we're going to wait 1 second before changing the time by -1. So this is going to keep happening until the timer runs out. So go to variables and change the time variable by -1 so that it deducts from the timer. If it does run out of time and it's equal to 0, it will not complete these steps and it will just stop the game. So go to control and we're going to do stop all. So when we press play, it will give me 10 seconds. You can see the timer. I'm just going to pretend and be very slow. So hopefully when it runs out of time, everything is going to stop. You can also move the variables afterwards into another side of the screen. So it says here, once you've finished, you can add more objects to your game and maybe give them more opportunities to gain more points. Maybe different items can have different points. And think about these questions here. So how big will they be? How does it move? Do they get a score? Do they lose a point? So think about those things and have some fun. Remember, always save your work and file, save now.